This is First Encounter, a podcast exploring both the foundations and the future of historical romance. Hello, everyone, and welcome to First Encounter. I am Andie James, a historical romance enthusiast and author, and I am very excited for our episode today. This is one of our book deep dives, and as promised, we're talking about Private Arrangements by Sherry Thomas. There will be spoilers ahead, telling you right now. But I am really excited as well because I am joined today by Seth is my guest, who's going to discuss this book with me. And many of you might know him as Drama King Books online. That's how I became aware of Seth, just because I'm part of the book community on Instagram and saw all his lovely posts about books for a while now. And so I'm very excited to have you here because you're kind of, I don't know, in my mind, famously, you love this book. Like,
thank you. I was talking to someone. Thank you. I'm very excited to be here and talking about Private Arrangements. I was talking to someone recently and they were like, I know I have to read that book because I associate it with you. And so I will take that on as famously adores Private Arrangements.
No, I love it. Yeah. When I was organizing guests for the podcast and books to read, I was like, well, I have to invite Seth to talk about Private Arrangements. I mean, it just makes sense, right? Yeah. Love it. And I know you got to meet Sherry.
I did.
Is
This
it
is
signed? For those of you listening who can't see this, he's holding up his signed copy of Private Arrangements by Sherry Thomas, which is so exciting. Love that for you. Great.
I literally had it. I was like, because I was at like an awards thing, and I had it in my bag to be like, if she's here, I will ask her to. It's like the one thing I brought, and I was like, and so I did it. I just did it.
I love it. I love it. I love that you went for it, and I saw the pictures of you with her, and it's amazing. And yeah, life is good.
And she's such a genius.
She is such a genius, which we are going to talk about for sure. But before we dive into this book specifically, because this podcast is all about our love for historical romance, I wanted to talk about kind of how you got into it, because it's only been like maybe a year-ish. Am I making that up?
No, it'll be a year August that I started my historical romance journey. So not even at a year yet.
Not even at a year yet. And it wasn't this book, but it was another Sherry book that was kind of your first. You want to talk a little bit about, like, how did you pick that book up? What made you say, I want to read this?
So my historical journey started because my partner had actually read a lot of historicals in his time because he loves reading too. And
great. We love that.
And like I had always like thought about doing a journey into it, and like it had always been in the back of my mind. But there's just like being a creator on the internet and like growing a following, you end up being inundated with so many books that it's really hard to like pick what to read and like what to prioritize, especially because especially because like you'll get this neck alley widget in this arc, it's like you feel like you have this expectation to read things that are coming out soon over backlists in a way.
Right.
And so then I actually read The Summer Storms right after my partner did, which is a Sarah McLean book, which is her contemporary.
Yes.
Really loved it. And then we went to her event, and my partner decided to rat me out to her and say I had never read historical. And they both looked at me with such chagrin that I was like, my hands are tied. I shall do it immediately. Because like the book came out in July, and I had already planned what I was reading in July. And so I was like, okay, August, that's it. We're doing it. And then I was asking friends like for recommendations of where to start. And I asked my friend Bernie, who is at A Paperback Life, and she recommended The Luckiest Lady in London because it's one of Emily Henry's favorite books.
Okay.
And we both have a shared love of Emily Henry, which is where our friendship started. And so I was like, well, that is the natural place to start. If Emily loves it, my friend's recommending it. I've heard nothing but like good things around Sherry's work at that time. And so I read Luckiest Lady in London.
I love it.
And so that's what started. Like I had planned the whole August to be historicals.
Okay.
From that conversation with Sarah and my partner, Evan. But then I started with Luckiest Lady because of Emily and my friend Bernie.
I love it. I love it.
And then I just haven't stopped really since. I've picked up so many more after that month, and I've just really fallen in love with the genre and how I feel like it's such an inventive genre because there's so many different ways that people use like different time periods to tell love stories, and I think it's really there are so many beautiful stories out there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know you've been reading, well, books, but also romance for a long time. So now, like, what do you see? What makes historical somewhat different and unique to you? Like, can you see things that make it somewhat of a separate genre within the romance umbrella?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it deals with the conventions of time periods that the stories are set in. And so there's
Right.
like rules, and we'll talk about this with the book too. Like duty and
Right.
honor become plays like a
Yes.
big part of these books. And so like the yearning and angst is really high in a lot of these
It's naturally ratcheted up a little because of the circumstances.
cuz
Yeah.
like literally it's like their hands are tied by the laws of the land.
Yeah.
And like what better way to create tension?
Yeah.
And I also think it's a way to explore really deep and like, because I always feel like people read romance in a way less rom-coms and more like think Kennedy Ryan, Tara DeWitt, Jessica Joyce romances that are
Right.
like deal with heavier topics,
Yeah.
but you have that happily ever after. I feel like historical gives you another layer of removal from it to be able to
Yes.
explore like harsh issues. Like this book explores some harsher issues, I
Yeah.
think, in marriage and child rearing that I think it's sometimes hard to deal with in the contemporary, but
Yeah.
feels a little more safer in the historical.
Yeah, that remove definitely makes it easier to look at certain topics. And I think, I mean, I've discussed this with some of my other guests before, but I think we're immersed in our own kind of current everyday culture. And so you don't think about it in the same way. It's just our norms. But when you see some of those practices, ideas, whatever, reflected back to you in a historical, the same way like a sci-fi or a fantasy, where it's like the different context makes you see it a little differently and reflect on
Yeah.
kind of present moments. I love that.
Yeah, when I was gonna say I feel like a lot of romantasy readers don't realize that historical has a very similar draw.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people who read romantasy would actually really love historical romance because of the same type of way it looks at society and that removal, but then like being able to like kind of look back at you and like things that you can make choices on.
Yeah. I would agree with that. But, you know,
Yeah.
they'll find it in time at some point.
In
You know,
time.
we're out here. In time. I know. Yeah. That was not an intended pun, but there we go.
Yes. Can I ask, wait, have you read Luckiest Lady in London?
I have not. So I should
Okay.
probably preface that. Okay, so my Sherry journey is short but sweet. This is only my second Sherry, which I'm like ashamed to admit
What's your
because I
first?
the first was Ravishing the Heiress, which I just so I read that a few years, I want to say 3, 4 years ago. And Fated Mates did like a feature episode, like they did that book. They did a episode focused on the book, and it just sounded fantastic. And I've been wanting to read Sherry because she's Sherry Thomas, and everyone talks about her. And so I read that, and it just like devastated me. It emotionally destroyed me in the good way.
So good. It's
I
my
just
second favorite.
God, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of parallels to this book in terms of some of the ways it tugs on your heartstrings. And Sherry definitely has some themes in her books, which I love. But yeah, so I, God, I have so many books I need to read. And I really want to read Sherry. But yeah, so I was very excited that we were doing this because it was an excuse that I like had to read more. And I'd heard such good things about this book for so long. But no, I've not read Luckiest Lady, and I know I
So,
need to.
so do you know who Luckiest Lady follows?
I do not.
It's Lord Renworth.
Okay.
You get to see you see Lady Tremaine in that story
Okay.
in the middle of the 10 years between the beginning of the book and the past and the present.
Love that. Now I really
Uh,
need to read it.
and if you've read Ravishing, you should read Beguiling the Beauty because
Yes. Well, I need to
that's
read them all.
well, you need to, but that one, the actual literal plot of Ravishing there starts in Beguiling the Beauty.
She's so the way her brain works.
And it's like, well, like I actually marked. Have you read you haven't read the Lady Sherlock series yet either, have you?
No,
No.
but I need to
So
because I also love mystery.
yeah. So I marked specifically this passage because it's about Lady Avery and Lady Summersby, who are like gossips, but they are a very prominent character in the Lady Sherlock series.
I love it.
And I was like, I was like, did she create her own parallel London where all these
I
characters are
mean,
actually coexisting?
I can say as a writer that some of these things, it's not always like super intentional. Like, because
Hmm.
I definitely have some connections between my first series and my second series that, well, I have a character that's very pulled from the first and featured in the second, but like it wasn't set up that way. It was just as I was imagining these stories, I'm like, oh, that would work, right? Like this
Yeah.
person fits this. And then, like I'm in the middle of writing a 7-book series right
Yeah.
now, and like books 3 and 4 are essentially going to happen at the same time, kind of like you're talking about. So it's there's a certain amount of plotting beforehand, and
Yeah.
then there's a certain amount that just kind of happens as you're writing, is my experience.
Yeah.
But I don't know, but Sherry's a genius.
Yes,
So
I just thought it was so fun. I was like, I'm literally, because I'm in the middle of the Sherlocks right now, and I was like, I literally have just heard about these two women so consistently, and
in
here they
this book.
are popping up in this book, and I was like, oh, like,
I love it. I love it. So you started with Luckiest Lady in London. It was an
yes,
intentional, I need to read historical. You planned your August. Since then, I know you've still been reading the genre, and
mhm.
obviously you read this book since then. But like, what are some, I know you've read a lot of other big name authors. Like, are there books that stand out to you from what you've read thus far?
I really loved Wicked and the Wallflower by Sarah MacLean. I thought that
Yes.
was beautifully done. I read like 4 Cat Sebastian books back to back recently,
Cat's so great.
but I started with like the Two Takes a Tumble all the way through.
Yes.
I don't even remember the name of the book, but the last one in that series is my favorite.
Oh,
Two
it's so
Rogues
good.
Make a Right, I think.
Yes. So good.
Just so like so well done. I really loved Adriana Herrera's book, A
Hmm.
Caribbean Heiress in Paris. I thought that was really well
Yes.
done and beautifully done. I really liked Anna Maria and the Fox.
I love that entire series by Liana de la Rosa. Yeah.
Yes, I need to go back and read the other two, and
Yeah.
same with Adriana's books. And I'm so
Yes.
excited because the second one is Sapphic, which is just so fun.
Yeah. I know. I know. I have not read that series from Adriana yet, which is
You
criminal.
you
It is
need to get on it.
criminal. And I know that. And it's on my TBR. And I might just need to put it on the agenda for the podcast. So I'll be like forced to read it, because
Yes.
the problem is like there's just too many books to read.
It's
But
set again the first one is set against the World's Fair, and
I know.
it's
I
just
know.
like
I love how she is played with whose stories we're telling, as well as when and where they're set in that series. I love that.
yes.
Like everything about that series screams to me that I need to
Well,
read it like
and
immediately.
historically accurate. Like people
Yes.
can't like people
Yes.
because people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also really loved Julianne Long, The Beast Takes a Bride.
I haven't read that. That's
The theme is like second chance, second chance. Like I love
I love
like
it.
my other favorite Sherry's are Ravishing the Heiress, but then I also
Mhm.
really love Not Quite a Husband.
Mhm.
And Not Quite a Husband is literally so Adriana was like, you have to read that one. Like that, like you like it's dual timeline. The last one, just because it's Duke of Shadows by Meredith Duran.
Yeah.
That one was I it's so interesting to read that. A second chance romance that is 2 timelines, but not dual timeline,
Right. Right.
which was just also very interesting.
Yeah, I love Second Chance too. I actually, little plug here, we haven't officially started advertising this yet, but I'm doing a collaborative series this autumn with some other authors, and kind of the theme is that they're all second chance love stories.
I'm sad.
Yeah. So it's going to be a series of novellas with some other HistRom authors. I'm not going to go into details right now because that's all coming soon. But yeah, like I mean, second chance in the sense of, not necessarily like we used to be in love and now it's our second chance, but like second opportunity for these characters to find love. So maybe
Mhm.
they're a widower, or
Oh.
maybe it's marriage in trouble, or maybe so just like these people have loved before and lost somehow, and now they have got another chance at love. And so they're
Mhm.
maybe a little burned, maybe a little shy, maybe a little, I don't know, but I'm very
Oh,
excited about it. So everyone
that
stay
sounds
tuned for that. But so, okay, so all these wonderful books, you started with Sherry, which was a great place to start because, like we said, she's amazing. But again, private arrangements. Like,
Yes.
I've seen you post about this and talk about this. What made this book stand out to you? Like, why do you love this book so much?
So, like, and I've read literally her entire historical backlist now.
I love
I've
that.
read all of them.
I love it.
So I say this like from my own taste and my own perspective. It's the
Mhm.
one that upon reading it, I immediately was like, I should reread this. I need to go back. I need to be back with these characters. And
Yeah.
I think it's just because I love the way in this story how both of them are. I said this in my email to you. It's like hurt people. And
Yes.
the way that this story unfolds and you learn about their trysts and the way they hurt each other and the way they're trying to come
Mhm.
back together and reckon with their past is just so beautifully done. And
Yeah.
Sherry, even though I would say like they're unlikable people, you care so deeply for them because of the
Yeah.
way Sherry writes it that like
Yeah.
you just have such a soft spot in your heart for them that their story becomes so visceral.
Mhm.
And this is a spoiler, and I literally took a
It's okay.
picture getting to this chapter. When I got to Copenhagen, it's like chapter 22. I literally was like, can't wait to be devastated because that chapter alone, I think, is the best chapter in the whole book with the blue hydrangeas and like
Yeah.
they see each other for the first time in 5 years. They love each other still. They try to be together. Like they both are like, oh my God. And
It's
then
like
they
ships
literally,
passing in the night and
and they
miscommunication and yeah.
and they can't get it right. And it's, I think, because at the base of the story is they truly cannot be apart. They love each
Yep.
other too much to do that. And that's what underlies all of their decisions. And I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
Yeah. No, it is. It is beautiful. And so let's get into it now, I guess. I mean, we'll recap the story a little. So if you're a masochist like me and you listen to things like this when you haven't read the book, we'll give you a little context. And if it's been a while, we'll refresh you a little bit. But if you don't want to hear, turn it off, go read the book and come back. So I finished this a couple days ago and I emailed Seth with some of my thoughts and you hit upon a couple of the just kind of my initial ponderings. And one, and you mentioned this before. So both Sherry books I've read now have dual timelines, right? And she is a master of it. She does it so well because it's hard. It is hard. It's hard. I'm trying to write one right now. That's all I'll say. It's coming later. But it's she does it so well. And the thing that just I mean, I'm sure she had all this planned beforehand. And if not, then she's even more of a genius for making it work. But the thing that works is where they are in 10 years ago when they first meet and get together versus where they are in the present is their positions are pretty much completely flipped, right?
Mhm.
And so they're able to understand what went wrong and have better empathy and context for what happened with the other person and how things fell apart. And it's just beautiful. And we can go more into the details of that in a bit. But the other thing that you mentioned that I immediately said too is, I mean, I didn't, it took me until a good probably 70% into the book to actually like these people, right?
Mhm.
They're not bad people, but they very much they have strong what am I trying to say? Like they take some actions that are very definitive that makes it hard to feel complete sympathy for their situations is what I guess I would say. And so, I didn't like love these people, but from the get-go, I was rooting for them and their happy ending and wanting them to find their way back to each other because she makes it clear that they genuinely care for each other and always have, even though they've been separated for 10 years. And it was just beautiful. And so I could hang with them until we started to see them soften in their understanding of each other and then their personal growth through that. It was great.
Yeah. The way, like, knowing that every decision they had made was about loving the other person is like throughout that 10 years, like truly every decision that they made, whether it be that painting she hung in her house, the
Yep.
piano she had kept,
Yeah.
the way he bought things for like the things he bought for
Hmm.
her while she was like they were never out of each other's mind.
No.
And
No.
like to think like because like they'd met 10 years ago, he was promised to someone else
Yes.
and didn't want to dishonor that. And she had just I could say spoilers, right? Yeah.
Yes. You're fine.
She yeah, she had She had lost her fiance because he was an imbecile,
He was an idiot. Yeah.
an idiot, and he died. And so now she lost her chance to become a duchess. And in comes his cousin, right? I think, and here he is, but like promises someone else, but he is literally the best thing on earth for her, like the best match for her ever. And then she fucks up.
Mm-hmm.
She chooses out of selfishness to pursue him in a way, like with the forging of the letter and trying really like just to force his hand.
Mm-hmm.
And when he discovers it and basically wants to enact vengeance because, and I think like you had said in your email, like why did
Yeah.
he choose to go through it to
I
begin
mean,
with?
and I know why.
Yeah,
I just
yeah, but it's like why would you enact
why would you
vengeance
choose
over
to
just
marry
not?
this person anyways? Yeah.
But it's like I think deep down he just loved her so, like he
Yeah.
knew she was the best match,
Yeah.
and
No, he did
thought
love her.
thought
Yeah.
like because there's that moment right before they sleep together,
Mm-hmm.
and when he's like, just say it, just tell me you did
Just
it.
admit it.
Just please admit it for the love of God so I can forgive you.
Yeah.
And I like if he wouldn't think that
Mm-hmm.
if he could if I think he wouldn't think that if he could never forgive her.
Yeah.
And so
No, I
then
mean, I get it. Like, I totally understand why he does marry her. And there's that underlying always, like you said, that he does love her. This is driving the decision, but he's not going to admit that. You know, for him, it's all about this getting revenge on her. Well, revenge sounds very more cloak and daggerish than it is, but you know, it's like he just is like, nope. I'm gonna make you suffer because you did this unforgivable thing.
yeah.
And I mean, of course, the part that hurts, you know, and is ironic is that, you know, she ended up marrying someone else anyways, and so he would have been free anyways. But
No.
just yeah. But it's interesting, and I know another thing that I wrote to Seth about is I couldn't stop thinking the entire time I was reading this book about Sense and Sensibility. And I know you mentioned that you have not read this by Jane Austen. Think that's obvious, but I'll clarify. Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen, because it felt very parallel to me of the situation between Eleanor and Edward. So our character, our Emma Thompson, if you're talking about the famous movie, right? Eleanor, she falls in love with Edward and he with her, but he is secretly engaged to a woman for the past, like Lucy Steele, for like the past, I think, 5 years or something. And it was a match made when they were much younger, kind of like Camden and Theodora, you know, where it was kind of, they thought they were in love, but they were very young. And now that they're older, it's like, well, maybe this isn't the best idea and we're not the
Yeah.
best match for each other. But there's that sense of duty, right? This, I made a promise to you and I need to see this through. But it's interesting because the difference here in this book, right, is when it's revealed, theirs was a secret, but it is revealed to Eleanor. She didn't find out through Edward, which is unfortunate, but he did try to tell her at one point, and she knows that. But she admires him. Part of why she loves him is that sense of duty and honor, right?
Mhm.
And so it feels like a very different situation versus here, where Gigi doesn't honor that. She thinks, she's like, you're both being stupid. I can see that you're a ridiculous match for each other, and you're just being an idiot and stubborn, and this isn't what's best for you. And I don't admire this about you. And you need to let her go, and I'm going to force your hand in this. And so it's just interesting to see the different ways it plays out. But I kept thinking about this idea of like duty, because we see then, I'm going to ramble for a bit here, so I apologize. But we see in the present day in the book, when it's the reverse situation and Gigi is attached now to Freddie, and we know that he's maybe also not the best for her, but she's saying, well, he's always been so good to me and I committed to him and now I can't let him go. Like I would be such a terrible person and I can't do that to him. And so it's kind of this, when you can see, I don't know if Camden could see as much that Theodora wasn't the best match as much as he was now in love with Gigi, but like she can see like this isn't, if you know that that marriage is not going to make either party involved the happiest and it won't be the best, then what's the point of holding on to the duty if it's
Mhm.
not? It's kind of this push and pull, and I don't know the answer to that. And I think these different stories, I think Sense and Sensibility answers that differently than this book does, right? This book says the duty's not worth it. Like, it's good that you're trying to be a good person, but we know that's not what's best. Whereas in Sense and Sensibility, like, that honor is something that is admirable and makes that person in a way more attractive because he was keeping his commitment.
Mhm.
And so it's just different ways of looking at it, but it makes you question, and that's why I love books.
Yeah. Well, and I was actually thinking about the subplot while reading it this time around of her mother and
Mhm.
the Duke next door. And
Yes.
it's interesting because, like, I had read your email before I had gotten really to the meat of the book. And I was then looking at their story more about almost as like a foil to theirs, where they
Yeah.
both did uphold their duty and honor in a way and
Mhm.
still got to have their happily ever after, and
Yeah.
they got their second chance since
Mhm.
she had wanted him from 30 years prior
Right.
and could not, and then and then when she was like, I married the man I was supposed to marry, and it took me 7 years to realize that I need, like, to be in love with him, and then they only
Yeah.
got 3 years together
Of
as
happiness before he
of
died, yeah.
actual happiness, but then she fulfilled that duty. She is now like a widow, and he had the duty to his friend that he didn't even realize he had hurt, and was like, I can't behave like like a rake anymore,
Yeah.
basically, and had, like, basically considered himself asexual, is what he
Yeah.
said. And then he was like, and then she absolved him of that, and they're like, we can be together. Like, it was as
Mhm.
easy as we're good, versus Gigi and Camden were like the opposite the entire
Yeah.
time of,
Mhm.
like, I need to just, instead of absolving you of your duty, I'm just going to get rid of it,
Mhm.
essentially, or, like, find my way to scheme around it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, and I think it's because at the end, like, those two, Gigi and Camden, to me, are just two people who have such a strong sense of what they want and will not
Mhm.
let anything stop them from getting what they want.
Yes, they're very driven.
And the only person who's able to get in their way is the other.
And themselves,
And
yeah.
then, and
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah, no, it's true, it's true, like, there's such a good match, and there's genuine connection from the get-go when they first meet, so Gigi, I mean, I guess before we get too in the weeds, in case people haven't read this, or like I said, it's been a long time, her mother had always kind of had ambitions for kind of, I guess, moving into social circles. Like, they had wealth, but they didn't have the same kind of status. And she really wanted to achieve that. She wasn't able to for herself. And so she just really wanted Gigi to be a duchess. Like, that was the goal. And so she was engaged to, I don't remember the name now, titles escape me. Like,
Carrington,
again,
I think
yeah,
was his.
yeah, okay, yes. So she was engaged to Duke of Carrington, and a couple weeks before their wedding, because he is an idiot and he was being stupid, he dies. He got drunk, he was being a fool, and he dies very suddenly. And she's like, what the heck? Like, okay. And so Camden's father, his uncle, then becomes the Duke. And Camden is now the heir apparent to this title and is himself a Marquess. So Gigi's already like, she hasn't met this guy yet, and they're already kind of scheming that, like, well, this is the best chance, right? Um, and their family has always been connected to a dukedom, and they're very well connected. They've always kind of had prominence. They've been living in Germany, Bavaria, and all sorts of places. But they've never had money. And so she just comes up with this whole plan, and money was also part of the original deal with the Duke who dies. And she's just like, well, I'm gonna buy the debts, we'll make you solvent again, we'll do all this, you just gotta marry me now. But then they meet, and it's just like instant connection, like an attraction for both. And so now she's like, oh, maybe I actually want this now. This isn't just like a thing I'm contriving to make happen. But as we mentioned, he is already committed himself to Theodora previously, and he's like, nope, can't. Like, Can't do it. And our Gigi doesn't want to let that stop things because, again, she's very determined, single-minded. This is going to happen. And now I actually want him. So it's even like more imperative. And she forges a letter from Theodora to him, basically saying that she has married another, freeing up Camden to then marry Gigi, which he does propose to her. It's very quick. It's like 3 weeks, I think, just like read the banns and then we get married kind of thing. And the day before the wedding, one of his relatives who has arrived for the wedding mentions that there was just this wedding between these other people, and she's not exactly sure who she is, but basically we know it's Theodora did actually marry someone else now. Like, it's true. But he finds out then through that revelation that Gigi had faked this. He does some investigating, figures it all out. And he decides to marry her anyways, and he's just furious. And this is where we land. That was probably way more explanation than we needed. But so he leaves her the day after their wedding. They have a wedding night. It's quite enjoyable for them. And then he leaves her, which she understands why, but it kind of comes out in the after a little bit. But yeah, and they spend 10 years apart. But there's this 5-year midpoint where they almost connect because they still love each other. And it's just like this near miss. And it's just, oh, God. Anyway, but in our present day, kind of the whole setup for the book is it is 10 years later, and Gigi now has found Freddie, and he loves her in a puppy dog love kind of way. God bless Freddie.
That poor man.
I know, he's such a little sap, but we love him for it. And so she has asked Camden for a divorce, and he comes back and is basically like, well, if we're going to divorce, I need an heir first. Like, so, now, does he truly need an heir? Yes, he actually does. But does he just kind of want an excuse to get back with Gigi a little bit? I think so. Yes, very, very, very much so. But now, like I said, like Cher's a genius because it's the reverse situation. So now Gigi is the one promised to another, even though there's feelings and maybe we want to reconnect this marriage. And Camden is the one who's kind of like scheming to make sure that doesn't happen, right? He's like, let's play this little game and get with Gigi and try to put a stop to this. And so it's great the way it plays out because, again, they get into each other's heads. They understand the other's position and what led to the events that devastated them 10 years before. And obviously it plays out differently because we get a happy ending, obviously, but it's great. And along the way, another thing that I think is again, I've read 2 books, but very Sherry from common threads through the 2 I've read, is that we get very bad, good sex, if that makes sense. There's just this awkwardness and then we have to, but they're still enjoying it because they love each other. It's like, yeah. I don't know. It's great though.
The tension is just so good. She writes the tension.
She does.
Whether it be awkward or like hot, it's still really well done.
Well, and the fact that it's hot is awkward because they're not supposed to be enjoying it, right? And then, and as I was reading it, so they're kind of, like I said, around 70-75% mark is where things really kind of shift in the book and they start being honest with each other and understanding happens. And they're at her mother's house. They're kind of away for a weekend. And she basically admits they've only slept together a couple times at this point for their air making, but she admits to him basically that she's been using contraception because she feels like it would be a betrayal to Freddie to get pregnant and have his child. And because they set a time limit on how long they would try and all of this. And so he's like, okay. And they talk for a while longer. They argue a little bit. And then he takes her contraception out and they both just knowingly have sex anyways.
Yep.
And I'm like, why is this hot? This shouldn't be hot, but it is. The fact that he takes it out, I'm like, what is that going on? It's great.
She just finally admitted to herself that she's like, I do want to be with him. I think that was the first barrier truly being no, this is what I want. And if he can get me pregnant, then I have to stay. Oh,
yeah, it's the excuse of I need to stay with him now, right? And obviously she wasn't going to get pregnant because that would make things too easy for them. They wouldn't have had a choice anymore, right?
No, but his little crash out when he thought she was pregnant is so good.
That was so good. He was like elated because he's like, well, now she can't leave me. And then just, oh, the devastation. But it was
Yeah.
also really beautiful when I really appreciated the way when she finally lets Freddie go. Freddie knows. He knows it's coming. Like he keeps looking for assurances from her and he's kind of skittish, but and when she finally is like, I thought that was really lovely scene as well.
Well, it's like they just clearly care about each other so much, and
Yeah.
the way that it's written is just so lush with like the
Hmm.
atmosphere, and like they're in the
Yeah.
Briar Meadow, right where she met Lord Tremaine for the first time. And so, like the book ending of the place where she met the man she loves, ending with the man she thought she would, like basically
It
the
was
man
so
who's getting
great.
them back together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, well, and I do think, if I remember correctly, in a different book, Freddie does get his happily ever after
Oh,
somewhere.
good.
He's
Good.
not, I don't think he gets his own book, but he gets another side plot
Okay, well, that
somewhere.
makes me happy because Freddie's not a bad person. He just
No,
wasn't right for her.
no, and I believe it's with the woman that is,
Oh, yes, the painter.
the
Yes.
painter that she
Well,
keeps
he's the
pushing on
painter,
him.
but
Y-
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The woman who thinks he would be a great painter.
Yes. Yes.
I
Well, that's
believe,
great.
I read them all back to back, so sometimes but I do remember him getting his own little
Good. That makes me
story.
happy. That makes me happy. Yeah. But no, I definitely need to read The Luckiest Lady in London now because I did enjoy the character. Yes.
Oh, and they also are deliciously awful
Oh,
people,
I'm sure. I'm
but in
so
such a
positive.
um but like I also just love how like at the beginning he sees how much, because like you learn over the course of the past that she tried really hard at the very beginning to stay with him, and he was
Yes.
like no, no, like he kept rejecting her and almost broke.
Mhm.
And if she had tried to, like, she basically would come to his Paris apartment when he was finishing up school in like basically clad in lingerie and what their
Mhm.
equivalent to seduce him,
Mhm.
and he almost broke. And
Yeah.
but like that last time he sent her away, it basically is like, if she comes back, I'm done. And
Yeah.
she left.
Yeah. It's when
And
she couldn't do it anymore.
yeah, but then even though she was like, I can't do it anymore, I'm done, she still fills their townhouse in England with his favorite paintings, with the
Mhm.
piano that is his. She keeps the
Mhm.
dog that he gifted her. Like everything she does was in his honor,
Yeah. Yeah.
which thinking he might return one day.
Yeah. Ugh. And then, I mean, and he is very determined. Like we said, their family never had money. Like
No.
they're pretty desperate for it. And she's loaded from whatever her father did. I don't, they probably explained it and I just don't remember, but a lot of money.
Her father did, I think railroad.
Yes.
It was
Yes.
railroad stuff.
And so he goes to, like, he finishes school in Paris and then he goes to America and basically, starts a business and he designs yachts and things and like all sorts of, and he's now himself loaded, but he was so determined. Like, he needed to make as much money as her, if not more,
Hmm.
because it was almost like this, I need to not be beholden and the money should be hers, or I don't, but it was interesting. Like, they were both so driven in different ways. Like, it was almost like he needed to prove himself to her, even though
Hmm.
I don't think he'd ever admit that to himself. Just like, I don't know if she completely consciously, I mean, she bought him the piano, I think, very intentionally, but I don't know
Yes.
if it was totally conscious that, like, oh, yes, I'm going to fill my home with impressionist paintings, then I'm going to, all these things that he
No, it
loves.
was conscious
Yeah.
because
Well,
she
no, it's
says
because
to
she bought them. She said she bought them in
because she
batches.
said to Freddie, "I don't know anything about these paintings."
Yes.
And he was like, "What do you mean you don't know anything about these paintings?" And she's
Yeah,
like, "I only bought them because Camden liked them."
I know. And she admits it. And then it's
And
like,
it's like,
yeah, it was such a great scene.
well, something else that I really loved about the book that I was noticing this time around is
Hmm.
in the story and in the language, there's a lot of
Hmm.
immediate juxtaposition of like being like, I
Yes.
really want to be with him, but I could never have, like, it's a lot of like, I want this, or this is the way, like this X thing, but
Hmm.
why? And like the story unfolds in that same way with with like the past being the basically reverse of the other of the
Yeah.
current story. And like I think that whole thread of the juxtaposition of like what we want and what we versus what we allow ourselves to have
Yeah.
is so well done in this book. And
Well done.
I think that's also why she adds this B plot of her
Yes.
mother
Yeah.
finally getting what she wants, which is
Yeah.
her duchessdom, her
Mhm.
duchess
It just
title
yes.
from the man. Because like she like her daughter has schemed to live near
Yes.
dukes more than once. They were neighbors to Carrington and then
Mhm.
later, of course, Camden, who would take over
Agreed.
12 Pillars, and then neighbors to the Duke of Perrin because she was wanting him for Gigi
Yes.
because
Yes.
she
Very for Gigi. Because if she's going to get divorced, she'll realize Freddie's not enough and she can have this other Duke.
and she totally doesn't want him at all. But
No.
like their love is so like it's in direct
Mhm.
opposition to
Yeah.
Camden and Gigi's, which is so wrought with turmoil. And
Mhm.
theirs is so, we've done what we needed to do in life.
Yeah.
We've done the duty. We've honored the people we need to honor. And like, she even absolves him as like the last thing that he needed so they could
Yeah.
be in love. And I think that's such an interesting way to tell these two stories. And of her book, because it was interesting, like having read them all back to back, her Bantam books, specifically the ones published under this publisher, all have a subplot like this. But like you remember, Ravishing the Heiress doesn't really have one, which is a different publisher. And I do think this is the most successful of the side plots.
Yeah, because so when I emailed Seth my thoughts, I did bring up the B plot because I did enjoy it. I'm not saying I didn't. I thought it was very well done. Like you said, the way that she finds out that, absolves some of his sins in a way. Like he thought he'd broken up a marriage. She was very torn up about it. And she's like, no, they're actually happy now. It's okay. And it was very beautiful. And the way that that evolved, I did enjoy it. I did think it was well done. But in terms of, like, the actual main plot with Gigi and Camden, like, it just wasn't necessary. Like, it didn't draw back from it, but, like, you could have left it out and the story still would have been great between Gigi and Camden. So it's just kinda like I always wonder why
Yeah.
sometimes. And I do again, it reflected on themes, and so it was poignant, but I'm a very focused writer. I do not
Yeah.
B-plot when I write, and so I'm always like, "But why?" And again, it wasn't like I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't upset it was there, but I'm always just scratching my head a little bit of like, "What were you doing with this?" And maybe it was an expectation, like you said, of the publisher. Maybe it's just she did it in one of the books, and so she continued it through the series, or I don't know. But
Well,
yeah.
it's also interesting because this is like this picks up after Luckiest Lady in London, which is published by a different person, and so it's like they're different. Like that was Berkeley, and this is Bantam Dell, and I think it's interesting that like she could like continued the series somewhere else,
Mhm.
um, but like it's now because like Luckiest Lady does not have a subplot. It's very it's like very tight, very like it's a little shorter, and these are like the Bantam books are all much longer, and so
Yeah, I
I do.
remember Ravishing the Heiress was very tight and a tiny little book. Yeah.
And this is the shortest of the Bantam of the like the other ones are like 400, 500.
Mhm.
And so it does make me wonder if it is a publisher thing that added like to add a subplot in that need like to like help elevate the
Yeah.
story or like
Or word count expectation.
yeah, or word count expectation or and like in the beginning I think it does bring levity because their
Mhm.
story is
Yes.
so tragic in a way and like very heavy that like the beginning of her mother and the Duke of Perrin's relationship is very comical.
It was hilarious. I mean, she's scheming to basically have to encounter him, and he comes upon her before she realizes he's there, and he overhears and basically figures out exactly what's going on. She's, like, purposely trying to make her cat be, like, stuck up in the tree. She's like, "No, no, no, stay up there so he can come get you." And he overhears the whole thing. It's great.
Well,
It's great.
it's like I think it's like Shakespearean in a way of like having like
Yeah.
a comedic relief. And so I
Yes.
think in this story, like I do wonder if it would be like I think we would like today would be like, yes, it's fine without that plot. But if reader maybe back then the publisher's like, no, you need levity. Like this is too
That's true.
heavy. Because like they do not Camden and Gigi do not treat each other kindly
No.
for the first like 50% of the book in the present day. It is like very mean-spirited conversations and choices that hurt the other person and actively making conscious efforts to derail whatever's
Yeah.
happening. Whether she's like going against the pact they literally just made about producing heirs, or
Yeah.
he is like throwing things in her face that she did, and like
Yeah.
literally listing all the men she has slept with
Yeah,
to
I
be
know.
like, don't you
Like, out.
dare.
I know. Yeah. Well, it's like you said at the beginning, it's hurt people. And they are both hurting it because they want the other, they feel betrayed by the other, they don't know how to overcome themselves and that hurt to be able to bridge that gap and be together. And it's just, yeah. But it's delicious.
Yeah.
It's so
It's
good.
well, and at the end of the day, but I think they finally understand that like not only they have betrayed each other
Mhm.
and have let it fester for so long that
Mhm.
like now that like they're older, they see the world differently. Watching them let their guards down and become more vulnerable with each other for the first time in 10 years, I think is one of
Mhm.
that's what Sherry does really well, I think. Ending basically the past with their 5-year meeting, where it's like you saw that they were willing to try in a way, and then now 5 years later, seeing that like they can do it again, I think is so like the plotting of that structure wise really is impactful
Yeah.
because like you stop seeing the past once that
Mhm.
moment occurs.
Yeah, it's beautiful, but yeah, but it's just the not miscommunication, but maybe mistrust of each other is so
Yeah.
deep now because of what's happened in the past that even at the end when Gigi is like, "No, I've given up Freddie." She follows him. He's gone back to New York. She follows him back to America and she's ready to like say, let's give this a go. Freddie's gone. And she thinks again that he is now once again with Theodora because she's now a widow and she sees her with her family and overhears something and misinterprets it to be the worst variation of what it could be. And it's just interesting, because they've so long have hurt each other and that it's like the mind immediately jumps to that worst case scenario and can't believe that it could be okay. But it's okay because she walks in like a queen and just basically takes command of the situation and it's like, nope, Camden's mine.
No, the way she walks into the dinner party and basically is like, "I'm here.
Hmm.
Fuck me now."
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah.
And he's like, "Great.
Okay.
Great. That's exactly
People
what
can
I
leave
want."
now. Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
just like, I think like it's something I also was thinking about how this book, it's called Private Arrangements, but how
Yes.
it deals so much with people's obsession with private life of
Mhm.
humans because like the whole time, like I had like this time around, I was like thinking about how familiar are you with Taylor Swift's discography?
Very.
Very. Okay, great.
Very.
So I was thinking about how did it end
Oh,
and how that feels so this book because like
mhm.
that's the plot of that song is Taylor singing basically about people around at the shops at the mall or wherever
Yeah.
whispering about how her
The
presumably
relationship
relationship ended
ended.
with someone, and
Yeah.
the whispers and the gossip and like hearing this and hearing that and like only asking her how she is to find out the
Mhm.
inevitable how did it end.
Yeah.
And
Ugh.
that is everyone in this book that is
Yes.
not Camden and Gigi. They all are trying to figure out how
Everyone's up in their business.
the perfect marriage essentially
Mhm.
ended.
Well, and that's a whole other thing is that it's the perfect marriage, even though everyone knows they've been separated for 10 years. But I mean, the very beginning of the book, Sherry talks about, I mean, it's again, this is that historical concept, right?
Mhm.
Where it's like, for us, that wouldn't be a perfect marriage in our current day. But then it was like, oh no, everyone knows, like, she married for the title, he married for money. But they don't badmouth each other. They seem to have their fine separate existences. And so isn't this the model of just the most civil marriage? And
Yeah.
isn't that perfect?
Because they can sleep with whoever they want, they can do whatever they want,
Yeah.
when at the end of the day, they both just want each other.
Yes. They just want each other. But yeah, the fact that everyone thinks, I mean, at least on the surface, that it's the acceptable way to be apart and to be. But then the second Gigi wants a divorce, then it's scandal. Like, what's going on,
Well,
and then everyone has to know everything.
because they all want like they what happened? Like where did it like, and then they begin to question like why did he leave in the first place? Like it's like all
Mhm.
these things start coming out, but at the
Yeah,
end of the day, it's like nobody actually knows anything about them or their relationship
right.
except them. And so like everything it's like I feel like a lot of historical romances happen. I feel like a lot of the ones I've read happen on the outset. Like they're at the balls or they're out in the park. They are doing like a lot of the things happen in the public eye. And
Mhm,
nearly every single interaction Camden and Gigi have in this book is in private.
mhm,
It's in their bedchamber. It's in their library. It is via like via solicitor coming to home. Like nothing
mhm.
that happens between them happens in public,
Right.
which is such an
Well, go ahead.
it's just such an interest. Like I feel like very rarely do you see like a romance, historical or otherwise, tell the story almost entirely in private.
Mhm. No, that's true. And I think, I was reflecting on this as I was reading this book because, like I said, sadly, it's only my second Sherry, but there's definitely threads that connect the two stories I've written. And from what I understand of some of her other stories, like she definitely loves like the marriages and all that. But one of the reasons I think I resonate with her book so much is there's different veins of books within historical romance, right? And I think based on the titles you've mentioned, you've read some of each where especially older books too, there tends to be a lot of external plot, right? And
Mhm.
high stakes of things that are happening externally or maybe there's situations of feuding families or whatever, right? So there's big things happening outside. The Sherry books I've read, it's very there's a lot of conflict, but it's very interpersonal. It's very small in terms of it's big impact, but it's impact for these specific people. It's not necessarily going to like have a lot of ripples or blow up the world around them. Like it matters so much and it's such high stakes because it's huge stakes for them personally, but it doesn't affect a lot of other things, right? And I tend to write that way myself. My books
Mm.
could be considered very low stakes in that my books are not big adventure stories. They're very character focused. And to them, it feels like the whole world, but it doesn't really matter much outside of their immediate sphere, right? And it's very much that personal learning about myself, learning about the other, uh, and I was like, "That Sherry does that." And I mean, way better than I do. I'll never try to but I was just like, maybe that's why I've loved these books so
Yeah.
much because in a sense, I mean, I would never consider her books quiet because there's so much drama. Oh my God. Like interpersonal, just like kill me angst. But really, like nothing big really happens, right? It's just the lives of these people and it's big for them, but it's not world changing, it's not earth shattering.
And like I think the biggest thing that
Mhm.
happens in this book is that she's asked for a divorce.
Yeah.
That is truly the biggest plot point that actually
Yeah.
physically occurs in the present is that she asks for a divorce.
Right.
But like there's so like the emotional turmoil that she is
Mhm.
able to rot through the English language needs to be studied.
It's oh my god. It's just ugh. Well, and it's funny because I mean she's obviously an exceptional writer. But as I was reading it, it's not she she's such a wordsmith in that she does evoke such emotion. She just wrings it all out of you
Yeah.
with the way that she writes. But she's not necessarily one of those people with like the most flowery, beautiful prose. Like I'm not reading her books going like, God, that was such a beautiful metaphor of, it's not that, but it's that she's able to get like such to the heart of things. And it's incredible. Yeah, I admire
Yeah.
her writing craft so much.
Well, it's like so succinct,
Yeah.
visceral in like
Yes, visceral is the right word.
the page I opened to was when he because like I tabbed it. So
Love it.
naturally to like have things to talk about. But like this is him talking about the past when
Mhm.
she would come to his door and try to seduce him.
Right.
He had bleakly delighted in hauling her bodily out to the stair landing and slamming his door in her face, but such vicious enjoyment never lasted long. Over his own pounding heartbeat and harsh breathing, he'd strained to hear every lonely, echoing footstep of her descent. And it's just like such a like sad image that hits
Yeah.
hard with just so like there's not a metaphor, there's not like
Hmm.
some like flowery description of how lonely and sad he is. It's just the descent of the footstep is all you need to know, that he's sitting there listening to hear her walk away.
Yeah. Like you can just hear in your brain, like the sound getting fainter and fainter
Yeah.
and fainter. And, you know,
And it hurt. And that was from before that was
mhm,
when they had just broken up, or he
mhm.
had just left, basically. But he still felt that.
Yeah.
And the other part about this book, like talking about them emotionally, is like they both the word I kept I wrote that the word I didn't realize she used so much is lonely. That like they both feel so like having found connections and slept with people and all these things, they still felt and now still feel very lonely and isolated in
Yeah.
their experience.
Yeah, they're longing for the other, and without them, they just feel very alone. Well, it's interesting because you brought up Taylor Swift earlier, so I feel
I did.
justified in bringing her up too. I mean, I'm always happy to talk Taylor,
Yes.
but I think, when you just read that little passage right now, like it made me think, I think Sherry and Taylor are kind of doing some of the same thing where they give enough specificity, there's enough detail that you can picture it. And so you can immerse yourself in that scene. And so even if you have not had that experience personally, you can still kind of feel it. You're living in that moment with them. And so you connect on the emotional level. So, like, Taylor's got songs where she's singing about stuff where I'm like, I've never experienced that, but you feel that gut
Hmm.
punch of love because the specificity puts you in that moment with her and you
Hmm.
feel the feeling and you connect on the feeling, even if you can't connect in terms of what's actually happening, right? And I think Sherry does the same thing
Yeah.
because she puts in enough detail to make you understand like he's feeling that distance, he's listening for that, he's straining, he's trying to like hold on to something and it's slipping away, and you can understand that feeling, right? And I did not express
Yeah.
that well at all. But
No, well, it's like that combined with like I think having read now like her historical backlist, she crafts these characters that are so vibrant and
yeah.
have full
Mhm.
personalities and are their own people and feel like
Mhm.
distinct humans that feel lived in. And so
Mhm.
then that adds to the emotional weight of that moment of like
Mhm.
she's specific enough that you can feel the emotion even if you haven't felt it in your own life, but you also care so much about this
You
person
do.
because she's made them feel so vivid and real and make them like these are people that you could like obviously not in today, like they're not, it's a different time period, but you would like see Camden and Gigi in real
Mhm.
life and they would, albeit maybe not make crazy choices, the forging a letter,
Mhm.
but you can see how someone would make the decisions they're making.
Yes. Yeah, because that's the thing is, like I said, I didn't particularly like love these people at the first. I mean, I grew to have affection for them. But well, and it's the same with Ravishing the Heiress. I mean, Fitz, come on. Come on, Fitz. Like you just I mean, I know there's some people who hate that book because they just think that he is irredeemable, right? Like with
Well, I think he redeems himself just fine, but
I think he does too, but I get where people are coming from, right? Like it's just so frustrating. And I was frustrated, with Gigi like just plowing forward and like making this did I understand where she came from? Absolutely. Would I have made that decision? No, but that's me. But like Sherry makes us sympathetic because like you said, she draws these people so well that we understand the motivation behind their action. And
yeah.
yeah.
Well,
It's
like I think that's like something she does so well across all of her like oh my god,
Mhm.
Fitz and Ravishing the Heiress. Like I think the scene that sticks out in my head are when they go to that cabin and he has his alcoholic like fits of rage and but I'm like he literally just married the person he did not want to marry
Yeah.
and was not subtle about it. Like he knew like
Right.
we all knew that
Yeah.
this was had to happen. And like that moment, while very harsh,
Mhm.
feels very befitting him as a character and in
Yeah.
where he is in that arc. And that's how
Mhm.
we feel about Gigi in the letter. That's how we
Yeah.
feel about Camden and his deciding that he must sire an heir now,
Mm-hmm.
when learning that she now wants a divorce. Like, these people are making like, the way she writes these characters are all people making decisions that in their mind's eye make sense, which I know is, like, at the heart of, like, writing and, like, crafting characters, but I feel like she does it in such a great way that she can craft these people who are, like, as we said, deeply unlikable, like,
Mm-hmm.
are very selfish, like, are out for themselves, but make it so you care so much about
Mm-hmm.
them.
Yes. Yeah. It
And
reminds me a little bit of Lisa Kleypas. Have you read her?
I have not. She is one I
Okay.
have not read yet.
That's all right. You'll get there. But a little bit in the sense of Lisa has a lot of kind of juxtaposing people with titles, kind of like the status, the family standing, versus kind of these people who are like hers is always the self-made men, where
Mm.
from what I've read of Sherry, it's usually the rich woman and the man needs the woman. But it's interesting kind of juxtaposing this, like these connections happen out of like necessity. I need to do this. I
Mhm.
must, because Fitz, like, he kind of has to marry her for various reasons, but, doesn't want to. And it's the same, like, I mean, in Lisa, they don't really force the marriages, they fall in love. But this idea of like the money versus the standing, and they're not alone in this. Other people write this. We love that conflict of like the status and class being so huge at the time, right? But yeah, it's just interesting in terms of like kind of the complete opposite juxtaposition of these people's positions, right? I don't know where I was going with that,
Yeah.
but
Well, and Luckiest Lady, he is the rich one and she is
Mhm.
not. So it's
Yeah,
the back to
it's
the end.
swapped. Hmm.
It's swap. But it's like the way, like, I'm also thinking about Not Quite a Husband, which, oh my God, is so good. So that one is incredible.
I need to just read them all,
No,
but
do what I did. Take a month,
I
read them
know.
all back to back, and immerse yourself in Sherry's world for a little while. But, like, it's just, like, I think about her characters and her books, and,
Mhm.
like, she's become one of my favorite authors, I think, because of everything we've
Mhm.
talked about, but, like, with this being, like, almost like the precipice. I'm holding
Mhm.
Private Arrangements as, like,
Yes.
of the culmination of crafting people
Yeah.
who you watch and root for to fall in love, and in
Mhm.
this case, fall in love again because you can see from the past that they so want to be with each other. He calls on her every day for the 3 weeks of their engagement. He buys her
Mhm.
a puppy. He,
I
like,
know. Oh.
he teaches her how to ride a horse again after
Yes,
not
that was
ri
sweet.
not riding because got injured, like, near death experience injured. Like, the care they have for each other in those
Mhm.
moments is so, like, that's why Gigi did what she did. And then when 10
Yeah.
years later, it's like I'm, like, racking my head knowing that Gigi's trying to do the right
Mhm.
thing, but knowing that, like, that's not where her heart lies. But it's like the culmination of Sherry exploring, like, love through
Yeah.
deeply, deeply even in this book, unlikable, but also just realistic people.
Yeah, relatable.
Relatable and filled with emotion, like, just
Yeah.
overwrought with emotion, and that I think my favorite books all have a lot of emotion in them. Like, I much prefer, like, a romance to a rom-com, and I
Mhm.
want something with a lot of, like, stakes or emotion. Like, they don't have to be
Yep.
high, like, 'cause, like you said, this book is low stakes because there's not, like, none of it is life or death, but it's high for them.
It's everything for them. Yeah.
And so even though, like, it doesn't on the outset, nobody's going to die,
Yeah.
but it feels like they will die without each other, and that is enough to like, the fact that that is enough to propel this whole story forward
Yeah.
is
It's
incredible.
beautiful. Well, we've been talking for over an hour now, so I will
So
wrap it up for you. But this is one that's gonna stay with me. But I read a lot,
yeah,
obviously, with the different stuff I do. And so I'm not gonna lie, sometimes books just bleed into each other. Like I can finish a book and then like the next day I couldn't tell you like any of the details. Fitz and Millie stuck with me, and I have a feeling that Gigi and Camden are gonna stick with me too.
those blue
Yeah.
hydrangeas will live in your memory forever.
I know. I love blue hydrangeas, so that helps too. But well, thank you again so much for joining me. Couple housekeeping things before we go. Just got to mention them. Um, as hopefully people know because I've talked about it before, but I am trying to get Besotted Books off the ground. This is a publishing house that'll be exclusive to historical romance. The Kickstarter for that will be in June, so I'm going to link below information on that. Because we would love, love, love your support. And you can follow us everywhere we are. We have a Discord for First Encounter. If you want to throw me a few bucks, I did start a Patreon. I'm not really doing much with it, but I'm trying to cover my software costs and those kinds of things. But as always, just thank you for listening, everyone. We so appreciate it. And Seth, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm very jealous of all the authors you get to meet in New York City, and I follow you on Instagram, and I just enjoy your adventures. But I'm excited to see kind of where you go next with an historical romance, and I'm glad we've brought you over to the dark side.
Yes, I can actually tell you what I think the next one will be.
Yes.
I believe it'll be Indigo by Beverly Jenkins.
So good. So
Yes.
good. Ms. Bev. She's wonderful. Yeah,
I'm
we're gonna read some of her soon. But yes, good times. Well, again,
yes.
thank you so much. Have a wonderful day and just happy listening and reading, everybody. Bye.